Unit 4 addresses topics related to cross-cultural communication. In this unit, the definitions of culture, communication, cross-cultural competence, and cultural dimensions and parameters are provided. To understand this topic, it is necessary to explain the meaning of the term cross-cultural communication and its parts. Communication is a complex issue. It is a process of exchanging information between a source and recipient. It has to be mutually understandable for its users and requires language skills. Language is used as a tool to exchange and understand information. However, language is not only spoken or verbal, vocalized means of interaction. It can also be non-verbal. It is the field of paralinguistics or body language, written and visual. The next part of the term cross-cultural communication to be explained is culture. Let us define this notion. Culture is defined as ideas, customs, skills, arts, clothes, food, music, tradition, and so on that characterize a given group of people in a given period of time. Culture establishes for each person a context of cognitive and affective behavior and guides this behavior of people in a community. It is our collective identity, feeling of belonging to a concrete group, community that we consider our native one. It is something that establishes very close bonds and characterizes us as a part of community that shares the same ideas, customs, traditions, and so on. The pictures you see prove this statement. Our cultural identity is closely related to language we use in our speech community. So far, we have defined 2 out of 3 parts of the term cross-cultural communication. So let us define communication. Communication is the act or process of using words, sounds, signs, or behaviors to express or exchange information, ideas, thoughts, feelings, etc. to someone else. It is the act of conveying intended meaning from one entity or group to another through the use of mutually understood signs and rules. It is our collective identity. The last component of term is cross or inter, which means between. Thus, it is communication between cultures, which implies decoding or interpreting the messages or languages between members of different cultures. To be able to decode or correctly interpret the message by members of other cultural group, we need to develop cross-cultural communicative competence and cultural awareness. Thus, cross-cultural communication is communication between individuals or groups of different linguistic and cultural origins within specific national and local contexts, example, political, linguistic, economic, institutional, and professional. To be able to be correctly understood, it is necessary to develop a certain competence. Cross-cultural communicative competence refers to knowledge of the cultures and ways of life of different communities, understanding of the relationship between culture, context of communication, and language use. To be communicatively competent at cross-cultural level also implies adaptation of the behavior according to the demands of different intercultural situations. In order to successfully accomplish cross-cultural interaction, we need to consider particularities of other cultures. Based on his research, Dutch social psychologist Geert Hofstede in the 70s outlined 5 main cultural dimensions that became an internationally recognized standards for understanding cultural differences. These are individualism versus collectivism, power distance, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance, and long-term versus short-term orientation cultures. In individualistic societies, competition with others is emphasized, together with uniqueness, that is to say, desire to be distinguishable from the mob by any means. Its members prefers to work alone, achieve private self-knowledge, get an independent control by establishing personal goals. Whereas in collectivistic cultures, duty to group is important. There is a deep sense of belonging to a group and its harmony is cherished. Advice from others is well accepted, group work is emphasized, and social hierarchy is very remarkable. Individualistic cultures are in the USA, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Individualistic societies are China, Korea, Japan, and other Asian countries. With regard to power distance, cultures are subdivided in high and low power distance societies. In societies with high power distance, power is centralized in the hands of autocratic boss, and his decisions are never questionable. Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Russia, Ukraine, and China, and Arab countries are examples of high power distance countries. In cultures with low power distance, hierarchies are not important and social inequalities are minimized. New Zealand, Denmark, Germany, Norway, United Kingdom, USA have low power distance. Next classification is represented by masculinity versus femininity characteristics. In masculine countries, competition and achievement is important, and dominant male roles are very clearly established. Latin American countries, Japan, Arab, and some European countries represent masculine cultures. Uncertainty avoidance is another cultural parameter that guides behavioral norms in different societies. It basically refers to willingness to take risks in front of unknown enterprise. There are two clearly distinguishable high and low uncertainty avoidance cultures. In high uncertainty avoidance culture, society avoids ambiguous situations, and there is a very high level of stress. All the relationships are rules-based. Countries that represent this cultural behavioral norm are Japan, France, Arab countries, Mexico. In contrast, in cultures with a low level of uncertainty avoidance, there is a low level of stress. Less rules shape behavior of community members, and they are more willing to take risks. Some of the countries that belong to this group are Hong Kong, China, India, Philippines, Singapore, Great Britain, USA, and Canada. Well, next cultural parameter or dimension is known as long-term versus short-term orientation. What does it mean? Long-term orientation societies have future-oriented goals, value persistence, perseverance, focus on the future. It is when you are willing to delay short-term material or social success or even short-term emotional gratification in order to prepare for the future. You value saving ability and being able to adapt to the circumstances. Cultures with a long-term time orientation are more concerned with the future and focus their effort on future-oriented goals. Most of Western countries belong to this category. Short-term orientation is when you are focused on the present or past and consider them more important than the future. You value traditions, the current social hierarchy, and fulfilling your social obligations. You care more about immediate reward and gratification than long-term fulfillment. Cultures with a short-term focus their efforts and beliefs on matters related to the short-term goals. Majority of Asian countries represent this cultural dimension. Dear course participant, I appreciate your attention and sincerely hope that my explanations helped you to have a clearer idea about the unit topic. I wish you much success in your studies. Thank you very much.